And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Hecate, we have the German Terran player, the blue Terran representing Team Mouse. It is HeRoMaRinE. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Canadian Protoss player, the red Protoss representing Basilisk. It is Trigger. Go. Again, Trigger, he had a bit of a harder time earlier today against Raynor, but that was a different matchup. That was a PvZ. I do want to believe that he can perform a little bit better, have a stronger presence against the Terran of HeRoMaRinE. But a lot will come down to the builds, a lot will come down to the playstyle here of our players. Again, Trigger, he is typically one to go for Twilight Council, to go for Twilight Council play. He's not really one that typically embraces Stargate, but we'll keep our eye on him as Trigger's going to be scouting the edges of the map, making sure that there is no proxy here on the right-hand side as he goes for his own scout. Meanwhile, despite the popularity here of eBay blocks, you see that HeRoMaRinE, he has sent out his first SCV, going to be chilling back at home, getting into his racks, getting into his own opener. It is going to be, looks to be an economic opener. A racks expand here from HeRoMaRinE. There is no second gas, there is no factory. So an economic opener out of our Terran player. Likewise, Trigger going for a gate cyber expand as well, and soon into our tech of choice. So everything is looking by the book. Everything is looking as it should here in the early game of these two players. We did delay the expansion for a second or two, but not for too much longer, as the probe is forced back and the CC is thrown down. And again, it's usually not really worth pylon blocking. Like, you can try, but even if you do, you can just throw down the CC off center and just float it over. Not the best use of your resources here early on as a Protoss. You don't want to slow down your build. So HeRoMaRinE does get his expansion up and running. Reaper is on the hunt, looking for that probe as well, making sure that it isn't hidden here at a third base location. Meanwhile, Trigger raced back home. Did race back home, and we will soon be investing into our tech, whether it's a Twilight Council or Stargate. Again, I imagine it's a Twilight Council, but we'll see what Trigger does decide to commit to. And there it is, Twilight Council once again. So, like, stylistically, Trigger, he's not really too fond of Stargate play. We have seen him go Stargate before, but it's just not that commonplace for Trigger as a player. Oh, as he does lose a probe. Trades a probe for a Reaper. Not a bad trade here for Trigger, to be honest. Good moment for him. Shuts down the Reaper, gets across the map with his Adept, and does threaten the mineral line of HeRoMaRinE. So we are getting into our builds here. Behind this, HeRoMaRinE going into his 1-1-1. Getting into a standard follow-up here. This should be Hellion into Widowmine, but we'll see. We'll see if we do invest. Just to get into some drop play, just to get a scout across the map. There it is, Hellion into Widowmine. So with these Widowmines, we should be looking to get across the map. It's not really about getting economic damage, it's about scouting the Protoss. Speaking of, the Hellion will slip by just barely. Slips by the Stalker, gets across the map. Likewise, Trigger trying to maintain his position. He shades in! Ooh, that was a bit of a mistake there from HeRoMaRinE. The Adept does get into the main base, does confirm the 1-1-1, sees the lack of add-ons, confirms the lack of additional tech. And this Adept will eventually be shut down, because there's no way out of the main. But we're just trying to buy as much time as possible, scout as much as we can before we go down. With this, Trigger's preparing back at home. A bigger investment, actually. Okay, I was not expecting this. It is a Blink Stalker opener, that is true, but that is 4 gates. 2 gates are done, 2 gates are on the way. It's going to be 4-gate Blink out of Trigger. He's doing his best Max Packs impression. I'm here for it. Let's go. I have called Trigger the North American Max Packs in the past, and we'll see if we can live up to it as we have hyper aggression out of our Protoss player. We should be expanding behind this. This is not all in, but very committed nonetheless. Meanwhile, as Trigger moves out, the mine job is moving in. It's going to be 2 Widowmines into the national base and very little, nothing to defend back at home. Uh-oh. Damage is going to be done. Widowmines, they do come in. We do have the on-burrow as well. Trying to gain as much value as we can, delaying so much mining here between the bases. The Widowmine up! We do come a little bit further in, and again, no mining whatsoever in the main. We do finally get back to mining in the natural, And Trigger's trying to focus on his main push. 2 probes go down. But that was so much damage. We have a tank on the low ground. We blink forward, but we take so many tank shots to the face. And the tank will not go down. Big repair keeps it alive. And this is a disastrous start here for Trigger. He needed at least that tank kill. He took so many shots to the face. Looking at the units lost time, he hasn't lost much, but his army is so battered, so bruised. And again, he's down to 38 probes across the map. He's now looking to expand, but his expansion is so late. Just because of how much he's lost. Bunker does fall. There's our third. But we need to get more value here. We need to get more damage done. So far, this build has not been worth it for Trigger. To delay his to delay his third base, to invest this much into Stalkers, he needed more damage. Marines are in position. Stalkers, they slip into the main. We will get damage done here. HeRoMaRinE not where he needs to be. SCVs will fall. At least one, at least two. 2 workers go down. That's some damage. Same time, Stalker. Oh, a Stalker does get picked up. Hit a mine shot. Getting an extra probe kill here in the natural. From here, the game is going to settle down, but HeRoMaRinE has a big advantage. Like, you can see, like, there's a big reason as to why he is so far ahead in supply. It's because of this opener from Trigger. It just hasn't been worth it. He sustained so much damage due to the mine drop, and he just didn't do enough with his own counterattack. And now we're pushing, and I'm worried for Trigger. There we go. He has to recall back home. We need everything to defend. There's going to be 3 tanks with this army. Stim isn't done quite yet. Good kiting out of Trigger, but it's only 1 Stalker. There we go. Additional Stalkers are coming in. HeRoMaRinE rotating over towards the third. No shield battery, by the way. Can we take down the tank? We cannot. Oh, we finally do. We get 1 tank. The other 2 do push forward. And we're getting within range of that Nexus. Yeah, big tank shot's going to be going off. Again, good movement overall. We have to make sure we don't overcommit with these Marines. And we go for the dive. He wants to collapse on this army, on these tanks. And he will. Oh, Stim is done. We get 1 tank. Oh, big snipe there on the War Prism. Second tank goes down. Trigger will clean this up. But it wasn't for free. He lost a lot of units here. And we're not done. We have reinforcements. We have another tank on the way and a medevac as well. We catch the army. Do catch a Stalker. HeRoMaRinE just keeping the pressure up. Trying to snowball out of control. We do have a shield battery. We do have an overcharge. Trigger trying to hold on. Immortal production has commenced. Trigger coming in from behind. Third base is being taken. Yeah, good movement out of HeRoMaRinE. He will back off. He will retreat from here. And again, he killed 16 Stalkers. He traded 1 for 1 with his Marines, which is crazy. Did lose 3 tanks, but again, for 16 Stalkers, as well as the War Prism as well, well worth it. Considering that HeRoMaRinE does have the economic advantage, he can afford these trades, Trigger cannot, and HeRoMaRinE, he just comes in once again with wave number 3. Third wave, the third round has arrived. We're going for the Nexus. The Nexus is getting very low here. We have Widow Mines to support. The Nexus, it will go down. Big pick off. Stalker's going to be coming in. Mine shots go up. The Immortal taking a lot of damage. Looks like we will shut this down. We're trying to at least. We take down the tank, but the Marauders are going ham. The Immortal goes down. And HeRoMaRinE is snowballing out of control. GG gets called. HeRoMaRinE takes game number 1. GG. GG again, Trigger. Just a really unfortunate position for him to move out. Remember, he moved out with his 4-Gateling Stalker as the mine drop was coming in, and it did so much damage to Trigger. It really slowed him down. It slowed down his warp ins, it slowed down his push, it slowed down his third base. It did so much for HeRoMaRinE in the early game, and it meant that the 4-gate blink kind of fell on its face. It did fall on its face. It wasn't worth it in the end, and it just set Trigger behind quite far there against HeRoMaRinE. Yeah, real solid game there out of our Terran player. We'll see if Trigger can bounce back in game 2. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit surprised he went for 4-gate blink. That's typically not something that Trigger does. He's usually a lot more passive and macro oriented. Trying to spice things up in game 1. Didn't quite work out, but here we go. We're getting into game 2 and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Site Delta. We have the Canadian Protoss player, the blue Protoss, representing Basilisk. It is Trigger. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the German Terran, the red Terran player, representing Mouse. It is HeRoMaRinE. Go. And HeRoMaRinE having a solid game number 1 there. Nothing too fancy about it, nothing too out of the norm, just a solid game out of HeRoMaRinE. And we'll see how he does mix it up here in game 2, if at all. Really, my eyes are on Trigger to see how he deviates and how he adjusts against his Terran opponent. Probe going to be moving out across the map. And get some scouting information. Slipping into that main base and going to be a bit of a nuisance. Once again, 2 games in a row, HeRoMaRinE is going for an economic opener. It is going to be a Rax Expand, not a double gas opener. So very economic, very chill here from HeRoMaRinE. You can see Trigger just being an annoyance. Just threatening that base location, as we do get our CC on location. Wasn't really delayed much at all. Is going to be thrown down. Trigger does confirm. He slips in, does get eyes on the lack of gas. So Trigger should be feeling pretty safe overall. And should get the hell out of here. Again, we don't want to stick around too much, but it is going to be actually Marine first, not a Reaper. Which means this probe can escape. We'll be able to race back home. Likewise, Trigger went for his own Gate Cyber Expand. So just like the previous game, standard openers. This is slightly better for HeRoMaRinE. In the last game, his natural base was actually delayed. This game, it wasn't. He was also able to preserve his gas, skip the Reaper, and went into a slightly faster factory as a result. So just slightly more efficient here at a HeRoMaRinE overall. Slightly more efficient. And once again, we have that Twilight Council opener. We spoke about it, right? Trigger, he isn't really fond of Stargate play in this matchup. He's not really one to invest and commit too hard into Phoenixes. Not too often. So Twilight Councils is what we expect. Should be Blink. Now the question becomes, how many gateways? In the last game, we saw 4 gate Blink. But we could see 2 gate Blink or 3 gate Blink. There are different variations, different ways to play it out. Different forms of commitment. So we'll see which one Trigger does go for. Now going to be threatening that Shade. Going to be forced back. And oh my god, that is not Blink, by the way. I assumed it would be Blink, but no, we're going for a Dark Shrine opener instead. Trigger really trying to catch HeRoMaRinE off guard this entire series. Being very aggressive. This is very difficult to pull off. Now, the reason for this is because it is very common to open up Raven in this matchup, and very common to, I mean, we have scans available, of course, we have these orbitals, so it can be very difficult to actually make this worth it, but we'll see if Trigger can make some magic happen. Oh boy. Again, we have seen DTs kill Terran players before, but still difficult to pull off. At the same time, we are reinforcing with a medevac. We have some Hellions on the ground. HeRoMaRinE pushing in very early on. These are vanilla Marines, but his goal here is to break into the mineral line and get some probe damage. Here we go. The Marines, they do push on forward. The Hellions, they go for that mineral line, as we mentioned. Marines are trying to keep the army busy, and we do roast up those probes. A hot pick up there, but 5 probes go down. And we're not done. We're going to get 9, and the Stalkers are falling left and right. We can't even get into our DTs. This is becoming far too much damage already. We get 12 worker kills. The Hellions, they go into the main. The Stalker almost goes down. Before we could even get into this, the points are being pulled into the Hellions. 3 Hellions, they one-shot probes, and so many are going down. 20 probe kills. We're not going to see the Dark Templar, are we? Oh, no. As we get 23 in total. We still have Marines. We scout. We confirm that Dark Shrine. We have a Raven already on the way anyway. We have mobile detection, and we're focusing down as many probes as we can. Are we going for the Stalker even? Oh my god. Trigger, his economy here in shambles. Probes are racing back home. We're trying to go back to mining. Not like this. It was a cheeky move here to go into a Dark Shrine. Of course, because of the DT opener, it did mean that we just had that much less to defend. We had no presence on the map. We do have a DT across the map, but it gets shut down. There's 2 Dark Templar waddle into the main base, and we have the Raven. And we still have these Marines across the map as well. We get a kill on the Stalker. We're getting more probe kills. There's 1 Stalker left. GG gets called. There's nothing remaining here, and HeRoMaRinE will take the series 2-0. GG. GG. Well played. Congratulations to HeRoMaRinE as he looks dominant here in this series, but a big reason for that is because Trigger was hyper aggressive. In game 1, he went 4-gate blink. In game 2, Trigger went for a Dark Shrine opener, which is not common at all. He was really trying to, again, be assertive and really be aggressive and try to catch HeRoMaRinE off guard in this series. Very little room for standard play, and HeRoMaRinE just was so strong there, was able to punish him at every turn. Of course, he didn't know it was a DT opener. I'm sure he was pleasantly surprised. That push from HeRoMaRinE wasn't meant to end the game. It was not meant to end the game, but because we didn't open up like a depth, for example, because we didn't get across the map, there was no scouting information for Trigger. He didn't know that a push was coming, didn't know that an army was on the way. Trigger was in the dark, and as a result, there was no shield battery. There was very few Stalkers, very few units. I'm sure he was preserving resources to go for a warp in of Dark Templar across the map. He had the War Prism as well to harass. He had invested a lot into harassing, right, into that eventual DT timing, which meant he was that much more vulnerable to the push of HeRoMaRinE. And again, HeRoMaRinE didn't know he was vulnerable. He just rocked up and it's like, oh, I guess I kill you. I guess you just die. It was not meant to happen, but again, just how the builds, how the game did play out. And GG. Congratulations to HeRoMaRinE. My condolences to Trigger. As Trigger just didn't really get to play. He didn't really get to get into his game, and he didn't really get to really flex his skill that we know he has, right? Like, we've seen Trigger look very strong in PvT in much more straight up gameplay, but that's not really what he whipped out of here against HeRoMaRinE. GG. With that, we have 1 series left. We have 1 series remaining here to end the night. It is going to be a ZVT between Scarlet and HeRoMaRinE. HeRoMaRinE looking strong against Trigger, but that's a different matchup. And it was also Trigger being hyper aggressive and HeRoMaRinE punishing him for it. We'll see how this dynamic plays out.